My wife refused to work for 3 years, claiming severe anxiety, while I worked 80-hour weeks to pay our bills. When her hard drive crashed, I used data recovery software and found out she was secretly earning millions on a hidden empire, so I legally took half of everything and left her bankrupt. I'm 32 years old, and I honestly believe that the absolute most dangerous, terrifying lies are the ones told by the people who cry right in front of your face. I don't know why, but I always had this massive, overwhelming need to be the protector in my relationships. When I met my wife Elena about 5 years ago, she was working as a mid-level marketing manager. She was incredibly smart, incredibly driven, and I completely fell in love with her. We got married, bought a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, and everything was perfectly fine for the first 2 years. I work as a senior systems administrator and video editor. I make a very comfortable corporate salary, but it requires massive amounts of screen time and intense focus. About 3 years ago, Elena's entire personality completely shifted. She started coming home from her marketing job completely drained. She would lock herself in our bedroom, cry for hours, and tell me that the corporate pressure was absolutely destroying her mental health. She claimed she was developing severe, crippling anxiety and that she physically could not bring herself to walk into her office building anymore. It broke my absolute heart. I loved my wife. I didn't want to see her suffer. So, I sat her down at our kitchen table, held her hands, and I made a massive financial sacrifice. I told her to quit her job. I told her that her mental health was the absolute most important thing in the world, and that I would take on the entire financial burden of our household so she could stay home, rest, and heal. Elena cried tears of absolute joy. She hugged me, told me I was her absolute hero, and she officially resigned the very next morning. For the next 3 years, my life turned into an absolute exhausting grind because I was now the sole provider paying a massive mortgage, the car loans, and all the utilities. I had to completely ramp up my workload. I started taking on freelance video editing projects on top of my corporate tech job. I was working 80-hour weeks. I was running entirely on cheap coffee and absolute sheer willpower. I sold my nice car and bought a 10-year-old beater just to lower our insurance premiums. Whenever I came home, completely exhausted, Elena was always resting. She spent her days going to expensive yoga classes, buying organic groceries, and taking long walks, claiming these were absolutely essential for managing her severe anxiety. I never questioned her. I paid for every single yoga class and every single green smoothie, believing I was helping my wife heal. But the entire illusion completely shattered on a random Thursday evening. I was sitting at my home workstation trying to finish a massive freelance video project. Elena burst into my home office, absolutely completely hysterical. She was hyperventilating, tears streaming down her face, clutching a completely standard 2 terabyte external hard drive to her chest. She told me she had accidentally formatted the entire drive. She was sobbing, claiming the drive held 3 years' worth of her digital therapy journals, her personal poetry, and hundreds of irreplaceable family photos. She begged me to fix it. I told her to calm down. I'm a tech guy. I know exactly how to handle accidental formatting. I took the drive from her shaking hands, plugged it into my workstation, and told her to go make a cup of tea while I ran some diagnostics. She kissed my cheek, thanked me profusely, and left the room. I booted up a highly specialized, incredibly powerful data recovery software called DMDE. When a hard drive is quickly formatted, the actual data isn't destroyed immediately. The directory tree is just wiped clean, leaving the raw files sitting in the background. I bypassed the corrupted partition, initiated a deep-level hex scan across the physical sectors, and watched the software slowly rebuild the broken file architecture. It took about 45 minutes for the software to finally bypass the formatted block and reconstruct the raw directory. I clicked open the massive recovered root folder, expecting to see a bunch of small text files and blurry smartphone photos. Instead, my screen was absolutely flooded with hundreds of massive, ultra-high-definition, professional 4K video files. I was completely confused. I double-clicked the very first video file to preview the raw footage. The video loaded on my secondary monitor, and my heart instantly stopped beating. It wasn't a family photo. It wasn't a therapy journal. It was a perfectly lit, professionally shot video of my wife Elena. She was sitting in a massive, ultra-luxury hotel suite. She was wearing a designer dress that cost more than my first car, and she was speaking directly into a professional camera lens with absolute, complete confidence. There was zero anxiety in her voice. She was recording an introduction for a massive, high-end luxury lifestyle and e-commerce channel. I swear, my hands started physically shaking. I sat there in the dark glow of my monitors, absolutely paralyzed, and I started clicking through the recovered folders one by one. She wasn't resting. She wasn't going to therapy. For the last 3 years, while I was working 80 hours a week and driving a rusted car to pay our mortgage, Elena had secretly built an absolute empire. She was running a massive, faceless aesthetic e-commerce brand and a luxury lifestyle vlog under a completely different pseudonym. I found entire folders dedicated to massive corporate brand deals. I found hundreds of edited videos of her taking luxury vacations during the weeks she claimed she was visiting her sick aunt out of state. But the absolute most terrifying, sickening discovery was the master financial spreadsheet. I opened the Excel file. It detailed every single penny her secret digital empire had generated over the last 36 months. The numbers were absolutely staggering. She was pulling in exactly $45,000 every single month in pure, unadulterated profit. And right next to the massive revenue columns was the routing information for a completely hidden, offshore limited liability company registered in a different state. She had over $1.2 million sitting in a secret corporate bank account. I sat back in my expensive office chair. The absolute, terrifying reality completely washed over me. She wasn't sick. She was a complete sociopathic parasite. She realized early on that if she faked a mental breakdown, I would step up and completely cover all of her baseline living expenses. By manipulating me into paying the mortgage, the groceries, and the utilities out of my own stressful salary, she was able to pocket exactly 100% of her massive business profits without contributing a single penny to our actual marriage. She watched me sell my favorite car. She watched me fall asleep at my keyboard from pure exhaustion. And she just smiled, drank her green smoothies, and hoarded over $1 million in secret. I didn't scream. I didn't march into the kitchen and throw the hard drive at her. The sadness and the betrayal completely evaporated, leaving behind a cold, absolute sense of pure vengeance. Because I am a systems guy, and I know exactly how to completely dismantle an unsecured network. I minimized the video files. I grabbed a completely blank, spare hard drive from my desk drawer. I copied absolutely every single recovered video file, every single brand contract, and the massive financial spreadsheet directly onto my private encrypted secure server. Then, I took her accidentally formatted hard drive and I intentionally, permanently scrubbed it. I wrote over the data sectors with absolute zero-fill garbage data. I completely destroyed it. I walked out into the kitchen. Elena was sitting at the island, sipping her tea, looking at me with these wide, fake, innocent eyes. I put on the absolute best acting performance of my entire life. I let my shoulders slump, I looked incredibly sympathetic, and I handed the dead piece of plastic back to her. Elena, I am so incredibly sorry, I lied, keeping my voice completely soft. The formatting corrupted the physical drive head. The platters are completely scratched. Your therapy journals and the family photos are entirely gone. It is absolutely unrecoverable. Elena let out this massive, dramatic gasp. She put her hands over her face and started fake crying. Oh no, she wailed, leaning her head on my shoulder. All of my beautiful memories. Thank you so much for trying, honey. You were so good to me. I just patted her on the back. I felt absolutely nothing but pure disgust. It is going to be okay, I whispered. We will just have to start completely fresh. I spent the next 3 weeks operating in absolute terrifying silence. I didn't change my routine. I kept waking up early, drinking my cheap coffee and pretending to work myself to the bone. But during the day, I wasn't doing freelance video editing. I was sitting in the expensive leather chairs of the absolute most ruthless, aggressive forensic accounting firm in the entire city. I handed the senior accountant the USB drive containing Elena's master financial spreadsheets and the offshore LLC routing numbers. Because we were legally married, and because she had built the entire digital empire using the internet connection and the house that I was completely paying for, the business was classified as a marital asset. The forensic accountant completely tracked down the offshore accounts in less than 72 hours. He found the $1.2 million. But he found something else too. Something that made the impending trap absolutely perfect. Elena wasn't just hoarding the money. She was actively in the process of buying a massive $1.5 million luxury beachfront condo entirely in cash, using the secret LLC as the primary purchaser. The closing date for the massive real estate transaction was scheduled for exactly 2 weeks away. She was planning to secure her luxury dream house, and then she was probably going to serve me with divorce papers, claiming we had simply grown apart, leaving me with absolutely nothing. I called my ruthless divorce lawyer and told him exactly what I wanted to do. We drafted a massive, ironclad emergency legal injunction. We filed a formal, catastrophic lawsuit for financial fraud, hidden assets, and absolute marital deception. But we didn't serve her the papers at our house. That would be entirely too easy. I waited exactly 14 days. On a beautiful Friday morning, Elena told me she had a massive, all-day therapy retreat to help deal with her severe anxiety. She kissed me goodbye, got into her car, and drove away. She drove directly to the massive, expensive high-rise office of her luxury real estate broker to sign the final closing documents for her secret million-dollar beachfront condo. I didn't have to be in the room to know exactly how the absolute destruction of her entire universe played out. My lawyer coordinated directly with a private process server. Elena was sitting at the massive mahogany conference table. She had probably just picked up the expensive silver pen to sign the final deed, completely ready to secure her secret, stolen future. Right at that exact second, The heavy glass doors of the conference room swung open. The process server walked right in, interrupted the massive real estate closing, and slammed a thick, heavy stack of official court documents directly onto the table right in front of her. Elena probably looked completely confused. She opened the folder. And right on top of the massive divorce filing was a completely printed, itemized, full-color copy of her secret offshore LLC bank statement and a transcript of the exact videos I had recovered using the DMDE software. But it wasn't just a divorce. It was a completely devastating court-ordered asset freeze, because we proved she was actively trying to hide marital assets by purchasing real estate under a secret corporate entity. The judge immediately froze the entire $1.2 million. The title company legally could not complete the cash transaction. Her luxury beachfront condo completely evaporated into thin air right in front of her eyes. I heard from her absolute panicked real estate broker later that afternoon that Elena literally collapsed out of her expensive leather chair. She started screaming, completely dropping the quiet, anxious persona. She tried to log into her secret banking portal on her phone, only to find a massive, terrifying red banner stating her accounts were completely locked by federal court order. She tried to call my cell phone exactly 47 times that afternoon. I didn't answer a single one. I was busy packing all of her organic groceries, her yoga mats, and her expensive clothes into heavy, black trash bags and leaving them on the front porch. The legal fallout over the next 8 months was absolutely glorious. Because she had intentionally committed massive financial deception, the judge showed her absolutely zero mercy. The court ruled that I was legally entitled to exactly 60% of the hidden $1.2 million because I had completely subsidized the creation of the business by paying all the household expenses while she lied to me. She lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. She lost the luxury beachfront house. And because her entire digital brand was built on a fake persona of authenticity, the stress of the massive lawsuit completely broke her upload schedule, and her corporate sponsors completely abandoned her. She is currently living in a tiny, cramped, one-bedroom apartment on the terrible side of town. She actually has to work a completely standard, incredibly stressful 40-hour-a-week marketing job just to pay her massive legal fees. As for me, I took my massive portion of the settlement and I completely paid off the mortgage on my house. I don't work 80-hour weeks anymore. I upgraded my entire editing bay. I bought a beautiful new car, and I sleep in absolute total peace. I learned that you should absolutely protect the people you love. But the exact second you realize they are secretly treating you like a completely disposable ATM, you don't just cut them off. You legally completely repossess your entire life.